Welcome to The World Today. I'm Waqas Majeed. Today we're talking about the very important meeting that is taking place in Paris. The FATF is weighing whether to place Pakistan on the blacklist or not. The country's interim finance minister, Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, is all set to defend Pakistan's point of view in Paris. We'll be talking about that in some detail. And our second topic is to do with the Taliban rejecting the pleas by Afghan elders for a ceasefire extension. So we'll be talking about that in detail as well. Let me introduce my guests in the studio joining me for the conversation today. First of all, we have former Ambassador Burhan Saab with us, and joining him we have Khurram Iqbal, who's with the NDU. Thank you very much for being here, sir. Sir, let's begin the conversation. What are your hopes, sir, from the delegation that is now fighting Pakistan's case in Paris on this FATF issue that has been a cause for concern? What are your expectations, sir?
Well, the meeting that is taking place currently, it ends on the 25th. We'll see. We have a high-powered delegation. Finance minister is leading the delegation. And before she proceeded, and her team, of course, comprising all the...
There's FIA, the SBP, the FMU.
FMU, important, all the financial institutions and of the government. And before that, they prepared an action plan, which was also shared with the Asia-Pacific group a couple of months ago. And its recommendations that APG had suggested that 27 recommendations in 4 different areas will be discussed, and Pakistan is expected to show progress on implementation on all those. So before proceeding to Paris, the minister held meeting with all those people and concerned departments. And apparently, to our understanding, the government was confident that we have made significant progress and we are following the proper course as per requirement, and our overall commitment and on counterterrorism and terrorist financing issues are unequivocal, unswerving. So we do not see any reason why there should be any additional measures against us. Currently, we are on the gray list, and we expect to either remain there or to go back to normal list. But many are speculating that we might be going to the blacklist, which is not something that we should be expecting. My feeling is that either we continue to stay on that list currently as we are in gray, not to move to the black, but best would be to go to the normal list and show progress on these areas. You know that for 27 recommendations we'll discuss, I think, in due course, and those are the things on which we have worked substantially during the last 8-9 years. Our overall performance seems good, but government still thinks, or the media generally are saying, that it seems a political staff measure because the Americans were putting pressure last 6 months for doing more, the jargon that do more on Pakistan pressure. And apparently Americans are coordinating this move in the FATF so that there's more pressure on Pakistan, since Pakistan was not complying the way the Americans were wanting on Afghanistan front. To us, we have done tremendously well on Afghanistan and all the measures, counterterrorism. No other country has done as much as we have done. Our sacrifices are well known to our audience. I would just say that my expectation that we should try to remain either on the gray list or try to go to the normal list, not to move to the blacklist.
Absolutely, sir. Khurram Saab, in case, I'm sorry, I'll have to curtail this question. I will ask this question once we return from a break that I need to take right now. So we have to take a short break, and when we return, we'll continue with our conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break, and we are in conversation with Burhan Islam Saab and Khurram Iqbal. Khurram Saab, I was going to ask you this question, that Pakistan is now facing the prospect of being placed on the blacklist. If that were the case, then would Pakistan also be included in international sanctions lists? And if so, then what would be the repercussions for Pakistan's economic outlook?
Inclusion in the grey list may not damage Pakistan economy as much as is being anticipated, because from 2012 to 2015, Pakistan has been on the grey list, but during that time our economy did comparatively well. Economically, it may not have that much of a fallout, but yes, it's a matter of great embarrassment for Pakistan.
But we're talking about the blacklist, sir. Being put on the blacklist. We are on the grey list.
I think that is a little, it's a bit earlier to speculate that Pakistan may be included in the blacklist, because if we go by the hypothesis that this inclusion was politically motivated,
of course, sir,
a result of American...
We'll come to that later, but my simple question is that if Pakistan were to be placed on the blacklist, what repercussions would Pakistan have to face as a result of being placed on the blacklist? And would international sanctions also come into effect and start playing a part? That's the question.
It's more of a matter of an image. Whether it would have any impacts on the economy, we must understand that the structure of international financial system is changing dramatically. It is not Western dominated any longer. In the past, if you are putting sanctions on a country like Iraq or Iran, the life there would come to a standstill. But now, even if the West with its full might goes against any particular country, they have their ways out, because the structure of international politics and economy has transformed dramatically. Take the case study of Iran. Iran faced sanctions, but it has found alternatives in form of number of countries in Europe, in Germany.
Also waivers.
Waivers as well. It's doing business as usual with Russia, with China.
India
as well. So international financial system is not Western-centric any longer. They may be able to pursue their political objective by demonizing Pakistan, by defaming Pakistan, but any real impact on Pakistan economy, I think that.
So you think it's more of a damage to Pakistan's already battered reputation more than an economic problem? Well, we've been joined by Muzammil Aslam Saab. He's an economist. Let's get his views on what he thinks about the prospect of Pakistan being placed on the blacklist of the FATF. Thank you very much for joining us, Muzammil Saab. Sir, in your opinion, if Pakistan, God forbid, is put on the blacklist, how would that play out for Pakistan's economic outlook? Mr. Muzammil, are you with us? I think there's some technical problem. We can't seem to hear Mr. Muzammil. Maybe we'll try and make contact with him again. Sir, moving forward, we now know that the Islamabad believes that the decision to put Pakistan on the blacklist is politically motivated, because they want to pressure us to get some concessions out of us, or whatever the reason may be. Do you think that that is the right tack or the right approach to deal with Pakistan, is to pressurize Pakistan, or rather to use some other way of cooperation which is more palatable?
Prima facie, it seems so. It's a pressure tactic. It is being motivated and coordinated by USA and its allies, although India is not a member of FATF, but I think from outside it is lobbying against Pakistan, giving the impression is that Pakistan on Jamaat al-Dawa and
various other proscribed organizations.
Pakistan hasn't done enough. It needs to do more. Money laundering and counter-terrorism financing is a serious issue on Pakistan, and cross-border movement of financial resources, foreign account amount, and dollars and euros is a serious issue Pakistan cannot control. So negative propaganda, definitely it is. And image issue, as you discussed and my colleague was also showing. But also, I personally think that it will cause a lot of problem because of our current economic condition, and as well as the requirement. It seems that Pakistan may have to go to international financial institutions like Asian Development Bank and World Bank in the days ahead because of our resource constraints and economy going a bit high and dry, not very strong. I think our dependence on international financial institutions will increase. And there, if a reputation of being a country not complying with international norms as far as terrorist financing is concerned, would damage our effort to,
So it would definitely have some
definitely
repercussions.
Have repercussions.
Well,
definitely negative.
That's unfortunate, sir. Khurram Sahab, one strange thing that we've observed is that despite initially agreeing to Pakistan's point of view, the FATF plenary commission decided to place the country on the grey list anyway. And that is despite having some kind of an understanding or a discussion on this issue, trying to understand what Pakistan's point of view was on the matter and agreeing with it, and still going ahead with placing us on the grey list. That's what happened earlier. But as Burhan Sahab has also said, that the Indian lobby had a huge role to play in that misadventure. Going forward, in your opinion, do you think that that strong lobby is still existing there and is still trying to damage Pakistan's interests?
Well, such a trajectory of developments reinforces Pakistan's official viewpoint that what is happening at FATF, it's politically motivated. Initially, the resolution was moved from United States of America and United Kingdom, and then Germany and France later joined. Since this resolution was moved, Pakistan has responded really well from the presidential order to include the UN proscribed groups in the list of Pakistan's money laundering system. That is number one. Then FIA took considerable measures. Almost 1,100 accounts which were involved in terror financing, they have been seized. There have been a number of arrests of people involved in terror financing or money laundering. Similarly, United States of America had concerns over the activities of Jamaat-ud-Dawa. Since last June, Pakistan has took considerable actions against Jamaat-ud-Dawa as well. The government of Punjab has moved to seize most of the assets belonging to Jamaat-ud-Dawa, its charity centers, its educational institutions. So this is what Pakistan has done.
But there's the other issue, sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's connected to what you're saying. The other problem that we've seen is that a number of these proscribed organizations just simply change their names and start operating again. So is there anything that's been done to prevent this issue? Well, because that is one of the objections raised.
Americans want from you with regards to Jamaat-ud-Dawa could be very counterproductive, and Pakistan must avoid doing that. They want you to kill and capture every militant associated with Jamaat-ud-Dawa. It has never worked in the past. There are ways to deal with terrorism. There are non-kinetic, non-coercive ways to deal with terrorist organization, and one such non-kinetic way is to transform Jamaat-ud-Dawa from a militant organization into perhaps a charity outfit or a political entity. There was an initiative from Jamaat-ud-Dawa to transform itself. It did not work. United States of America is still having objections over it, but the question arises that there are a number of precedents in different parts of the world, especially in the West, where militant organizations have been allowed to transform themselves into political entity. UK, which has supported this resolution, haven't they transformed Irish Republican Army from a terrorist organization into a political entity? If they can do so, why are they stopping us from doing that? And if it is about terror financing, why don't Pakistani diplomats and Pakistani politicians hold UK accountable for harboring Altaf Hussain, whose party is involved in killing of thousands of people since last 10 years in Karachi? Altaf Hussain is operating from London for last 15 years, but our political elite will never do that because our political interests are there. We, our political elite, they enjoy dual citizenships of United Kingdom. Your former Prime Minister,
is it just the politicians, though,
has a second home in United Kingdom. Well, that's the problem with Pakistan's elite.
Is it just the politicians?
That's the problem with Pakistan's elite, and it is likely to stay so.
Let's see. Well, according to the federal government, sir, they do not see any major impact of the FATF's decision on Pakistan's economy. That's what is considered. But Pakistan was on the grey list from 2012 to 2015, and we still signed agreements with the IMF and issued sovereign bonds in international capital markets, despite being on the grey list. So the perception that is being stated by the government is that it really doesn't matter. You,
It's
of
a
course,
bit,
agree.
it's an oversimplification of the situation. One. Second is over-optimism. I will not go with that at all, because we can see it's a political move, and in global political paradigm, we know that America has a lot of influence all around, including international financial institutions. If you are strong enough, you had enough resources, you are an economy better than what we have, we didn't have to depend on foreign aid and assistance. At least we had a lot of oil like Iran, possibly we could talk straight. But we can't do that. A lot of dependence we have. I mean, our total exports $21 billion.
Well, sir, if you listen to what Dr. Miftah Ismail had said earlier, he said that Pakistan's financial system was strong and that its anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing regimes were among the most stringent in the world. So despite this fact being there stated, why is it that Pakistan's point of view is not being accepted?
You see, situation, there must be some things, some deficiencies in our action and work and what we present to the international bodies. Definitely they are saying that you need to improve particularly in two areas. One is improving the prosecution in anti-money laundering areas and counter-terrorism cases. We don't have good enough prosecution to those cases which have come to fore and to our notice. We haven't done enough. They give you list of organizations which is transactioning, which is transferring funds, and we are not, or those we have identified, we cannot prosecute them because lack of enough evidence and other stuff. Secondly, they're also saying that you must ensure enforcement of the UN Security Council resolutions.
We are already adhering to those,
organizations, sir. We have done some legislation and all that, but they are not satisfied.
That's the problem, sir, because no matter how much Pakistan bends over backwards to meet their criteria, they're never satisfied, and we always have to face the do more mantra no matter how much we do.
This is a fundamental problem that we have, that with the Americans, if we don't keep on the right side or of your, you face these kind of problems. They might come out with tomorrow another list of do more, and we can't do much because we are so much dependent on them, their support, their military assistance, their economic assistance. If we can stand on our feet and we can tell them no more, do more, I think we'll be good enough.
Well, we have been, sir, but it seems that the message is somewhere lost in translation. Khurram Saab, one of the decisions by the FATF that they might be putting Pakistan on the blacklist or even putting Pakistan on the grey list is being seen against the norms of the FATF processes and its sister organizations, as the country's mutual evaluation, which is a process after which they decide whether the country should be put on the list or not, is still in the process. That is, Pakistan is still going through the various processes of meeting those requirements, so it is under review. How can they make a decision until and unless they don't get the report from this sister organization, which is the mutual evaluation organization, which tells FATF what to do? So that process hasn't even finished yet. So how can they make this
questions
decision?
The integrity of this financial institution, whether they are driven by merit or it is driven by political concerns of the major powers. As my co-panelist has said, that there might be some problems with our response and all that. I think this self-loathing attitude has never helped us. There are points where you have to assert yourself. When it comes to countering terrorism, if there is one country which has fought successfully against terrorism during the last 15 years, it's Pakistan. Yes, but there is a fine distinction that West draws between the good terrorists and bad terrorists. This is what we need to understand. With their approach towards Jamaat-ud-Dawa, I don't think it is in the best interest of Pakistan to kill and capture every individual.
If we talk about this one particular organization that you're naming, sir, we are not talking about a specific organization. We're talking about all proscribed organizations.
But most of the concerns arise from the Jamaat-ud-Dawa's activities inside Pakistan. So that's a major issue. As long as Al-Qaeda is concerned, Al-Qaeda's network, whether it's financial or physical, has been damaged significantly during the last 15 years. And international bodies, including United States of America, has acknowledged that.
And that is a lot to do with Pakistan's efforts.
Pakistan's efforts. 1/3 of Al-Qaeda's leadership was apprehended and captured by Pakistani law enforcement agencies. So this is what Pakistan has done with regards to global efforts on countering terrorism.
Right.
One reason that America's global rule is short-lived is because of its unfair dealing and its unfair treatment of smaller powers in the region. And Americans must realize that if they want to sustain their stature as the global leader, they must give up this unfair treatment of the smaller power driven by their geostrategic interests.
That doesn't seem to be happening if you look at what the trade wars that are now happening all across the world, if we can see what the policy is. Well, the Mutual Evaluations Organization also provide an in-depth description and analysis of each country's system for preventing criminal abuse of the financial system. And the decision to place a member country on the FATF list is usually taken in the light of the mutual evaluation. And it seems that Pakistan is falling victim to international politics on this issue, as both Burhan Saab and you have also said. And if that is the case, what can Pakistan really do about it at this stage?
Those countries with whom we are doing mutual evaluation, I think with them we have to improve our coordination and cooperation and tell them that these are the areas that we have worked and we are working. And I mean, we have to show them that we are doing better than what you are doing, because we are convinced that we are doing significantly better than past and doing better than others. So we have to prove it to them and show it and throw it on their face, saying that how come on mutual evaluation you are finding us at fault? You see, what you are doing, we are doing as much or even better. If we can prove it, because it is on the table that you have to establish the facts with facts and figures. So it is not only dialogue and making statements that all it is politically motivated. They will not listen to that. You have to establish with facts and figures. If we are good enough and we can tell others that, look, these are the 72 areas on which we are working, go through the list one by one, we will be able to prove that ours is as good or better than yours. So how we can be faltering on mutual evaluation? I think our negotiators will have to be firm, thorough, they must do groundwork, and there is no reason that we should be failing on that account.
Well, we hope and we wish the delegation and the current Finance Minister all the best in her endeavors, and we hope that they succeed for Pakistan. Sir, let's move on to our second topic, which is also very important for us. Khurram Saab, on Monday, the Taliban have again rejected the Afghan elders' appeal for extending the ceasefire that they had announced on Eid. But unfortunately, the Taliban's point of view is that that would amount to a surrender to the occupying forces or the foreign forces. So what's your point of view, sir? Do you think that there is a middle ground that can be achieved here?
Little is known about this movement which emerged in Afghanistan, which basically tries to convince both the Kabul government and Afghan Taliban to go for a ceasefire. If this movement is a mass movement, if it has a widespread popular support inside Afghanistan, then Afghan Taliban must pay attention to their demands, because Afghan Taliban as an insurgent group cannot survive without popular support inside Afghanistan. Every insurgent, every guerrilla needs popular support to survive, to hide, to recruit, to basically
they have to have sympathizers.
They need to have sympathizers. So if this movement is popular, if this is a mass movement, Afghan Taliban need to take it seriously, and they must reciprocate, they must respond positively to such events. But if this movement is driven by some outside or external agenda, as they suggest, it may not have that much impact on the militancy in Afghanistan.
Well, that seems to be the point of view, because there are a number of efforts within Afghanistan being made by the Afghan people. For example, you know of the long peace march that has taken place from the south to Kabul. From a southern province, they marched all the way to Kabul. And then there are a number of other small groups such as these that are talking about bringing peace to Afghanistan. It has been 40 years that the people have been living in this bloodshed, and they're obviously sick to death of this state of affairs. There has to be some way out, but the the point of view of the Taliban must also be considered, that they say that the objective of these peace overtures are that we lay down our weapons and accept the regime imposed by the invaders. Now, with that sort of a counter argument being given by the Taliban, sir, where is there any space to move forward?
I don't see there is much prospect on this account, because it's an effort by some regions because they want peace and they're tired of this war for 40 years, as you mentioned. But the issue is what the Taliban gain in the process. You just say that it's a ceasefire, no war, there will be stalemate for them. And at the same time, the Americans are going to, apparently they're going to stay there for indefinite period, and the government there is definitely a compliant government. So whatever the Americans they think will want, the government in Kabul will implement that and prosecute that. In that process, the Taliban will get nothing. So they think that without any major initiative like facilitating in the process withdrawal of foreign forces, it will make no sense to us, no meaning to us, no reward to us. So why should we engage in such activities? At the same time, as you were discussing, the public image and the support base of the Taliban in the public, presently it seems that it has command over 70% of people and 40% of the territory. It has to be also be mindful of the fact that it has public support there. So should it let it go, or be little bit, receptive to what they want to say and do? I think some tactical moves Taliban could be taking and giving some signals, conveying some signals that we are interested in that, but we want some solid measures from the other side as well, some commitment about withdrawal of foreign forces, because if we have to give up arms, we also need to know why the foreign forces have to be staying there. There should be a reason, there should be a plan to work out an arrangement for withdrawal of the foreign forces. We can do that, what you are wanting to go for a ceasefire, because our basic war effort is for forcing the foreign forces to withdraw. So if you are telling us in that context there will be progress, like Americans will be prepared to tell you that yes, we have a plan, if you do ceasefire in 10 years or 2 years or 1 year, possibly we'll be withdrawing. That kind of commitment they can seek from the other side, who are saying, why don't you go for a ceasefire? I think it's easy for the Taliban to play their cards and tell them that yes, we are prepared, but let the Americans and the government to do certain things, steps, including a plan for withdrawal of foreign forces.
Absolutely, sir. Khurram Sahab, do you see that happening, or do you think that's quite an unlikely scenario, as what Burhan Sahab is saying?
Highly unlikely, because United States of America has avoided any direct contact with Afghan Taliban. When it comes to negotiations in Afghanistan, Afghan Taliban have maintained for a long time that we are willing to talk, but to the Americans, not to the Kabul
Afghan
regime.
government.
If Americans are not willing to share a table with Afghan Taliban, I don't see that coming.
Absolutely, sir. Let's talk about the role of the tribal elders, sir. They say that they may not be able to bring about complete peace and create a ceasefire in the entire country, but they can at least influence their own districts, and they will. This is something new, what we are listening, this new sort of narrative that's being built up, that within the smaller the villages and cities of Afghanistan, the people who are in charge there, they are now asking the Taliban and the Afghan government forces to take the fight away from their towns and their cities. Do you think that that might have some sort of an effect?
Well, that's a very interesting phenomena. During last 1 year, we have seen an interesting development. The Pashtun region on both sides of the Pak-Afghan border have witnessed the emergence of anti-war campaign, and it is happening on the both sides of the border. This is mainly because these Pashtun regions have suffered the devastation of war for last more than 2 decades. So it reflects a new thinking, and if, there's a big if, because such movements, especially in Afghanistan, have been quite unprecedented. whether these movements can emerge, transform into mass movement, whether these mass movement can then transform itself into a meaningful political party, that remains to be seen, but that certainly is a very interesting development.
Or at least a social force that can have some public opinion and that can carry weight.
That's right.
That's what's really required over here. Well, for example, sir, in Jani Khel, another area, the elders have held a meeting, and a number of people attended that meeting on the weekend, and they again were calling on both the Taliban and the government from refraining in fighting in their area. They also said that we are fed up of these operations by government forces in our areas that trigger fighting for days. The success of these local initiatives is mixed, as you have said, sir. But do you think that it may have the ability or the capacity to grow into something larger, or do you see that is also not going to happen because of the level of poverty and many other social factors, illiteracy and so many others that may not allow this to happen either?
If you look at the structure of Afghan society, if you look at the political system, there is a very little space for such grassroots movements. Who calls the shots in Afghanistan is well known. Either it's the tribal lords or the influential clerics. If this movement is not supported by influential tribal elite and religious clergy, it is not likely to transform into any meaningful movement. So I don't see a very bright future for such an uprising, unfortunately.
Very sad, sir. President Ashraf Ghani has also ordered the government forces to stop offensive operations against the Taliban for another 10 days after the ceasefire had ended. But since that was announced, there has been fierce fighting that has been continuing. So Mr. Ashraf Ghani's word doesn't seem to carry much weight within Afghanistan. Do you agree with this sort of statement, sir?
Yes, this is a serious problem. But I also, on the previous issue, if you allow me, I'll make a couple of points.
Please, sir.
You see, the elders are focusing on the Taliban that you should not resist to whatever was government measures and all that, and continue with the ceasefire, listen to the government and stop your measures of military offensive so that there is peace. Now, the question is, they're speaking for whom? Secondly, it seems that it is a dialogue, it's a narrative of the government or the foreign forces asking the local elders to convey to the Taliban to stop fighting. But then why these elders don't think otherwise? Why don't they say, well, it seems that the Taliban would not surrender or would not give up military offensive unless the American forces withdraw. So let's start demanding also to them, please, sir, give us a plan for withdrawal. And Taliban are telling us that they will cease fire if we withdraw. Can you give us a plan? They're not doing it. So it means it's a narrative of the government and the American forces, and the Taliban are not duty-bound to listen to them.
Right, sir. So it seems that we're still standing at status quo. Nothing seems to be changing on the ground, and it's a lot of lip service that is being presented, but no real concrete action.
But your second question, I think I have to address that also.
So please do.
Ashraf Ghani saying that, sir,
that the 10-day ceasefire should be
ceasefire
followed, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. Ceasefire carries no money for the Taliban. It's a breed of people who are ready and prepared all the time to give their life for their independence, freedom, for their land, for their culture, for their anything Afghan, they're going to defend, they're prepared to defend. There, if you just give them a sort of a carrot for 10 days, it will not appeal to the Taliban. You see, they want real progress on that. They know very well that any movement in that direction or any positive development towards peace must start with withdrawal of foreign forces. What the foreign forces are doing there is the Taliban asking, not me, I am not a Taliban, but it is their demand. So where they are demanding these sort of things, just saying the 10 days ceasefire, end of the day, after 10 days, what is there to achieve? If there is nothing, why the Taliban would be taking the carrot? They prefer guns than carrots.
Absolutely, sir. That seems to be the problem. Khurram Sahab, what's the way forward, sir?
Well, the way forward is what Pakistan has been maintaining for a long time. Afghan Taliban inside Afghanistan are a power to reckon with. They're not outsiders. They're the ones who belong to Afghanistan. It's a political issue which needs to be resolved through politics. Look at the history of insurgency in different parts of the world. No insurgency has been dealt by merely relying on the use of force. What United States of America is doing at the moment in Afghanistan can be counterproductive in the short and longer term. For instance, when Donald Trump took office in Washington, he used the mother of all bombs inside Afghanistan. The aerial campaign against the insurgents has increased. Such aerial bombings can cause large-scale collateral damage, civilian killings. When civilians are killed, it means more popular support for the insurgent. So you are pushing Afghanistan into an unending cycle of conflict by merely relying on force. There has to be a political solution to Afghanistan, and for that political solution, it's not only Pakistan. All the regional players are basically advocating for that political solution. There is a regional support for a political solution to the Afghan problem, and I think that now there is a time that United States of America must understand that if there is a way forward in Afghanistan, it is through politics, not the military means.
Khurram sir, why is it that the US fails to understand that? I mean, if you just look at what they're doing in the Korean Peninsula, they're talking about denuclearization, they're making, friends with Kim Jong-un and whatnot. What's the problem, sir? Why is there this disconnect?
Donald Trump is a very interesting man. Apparently, he looks like a clown, but he is very unpredictable. The way he dealt with North Korea, can you expect the same unexpected in Afghanistan? I think with Donald Trump at the helm of affairs in the United States of America, that's quite a possibility. Because if you look at
anything can happen, I was going to say.
That was a part of his political campaign.
Yes,
when he was campaigning for the president, that I will go for a political solution to Afghanistan. But later he came under tremendous pressure of American generals, and he gave up on his initial plans.
Yes.
So Donald Trump is a person who was all in for a political support, and I think if he can go for a talk with Kim, nothing stops him from holding dialogue with Afghan Taliban.
Well, I hope that something of that nature occurs sooner rather than later, and the Afghans can also finally see peace in their land. With that hope and with that note, we just hope and pray that this happens. Burhan Sahib, would you like to add something?
Yes, I also wanted to say that it's not a discussion on Korean Peninsula, but I wanted to say that it's a great job done by President Kim and of course President Trump. And Trump should take that model and try to see if this situation could be replicated in the context of other long-standing problems, including Kashmir.
That doesn't seem to be the case, sir, because the kind of love that he is showing for Kim Jong-un is very contrary to the love that he has for the Europeans or the Canadians or the Mexicans or everybody else. So
yeah,
it's a tall order, sir.
Tall order, conflict resolution. You never know. His mind works differently, as we are saying.
Yes, sir.
So you remember he gave one statement before or during election campaigns that he also wants to see that Kashmir is resolved somehow, some dialogue, some discussion.
And there was a prompt shut-up call being given to the US by the Indians on that, sir, if you recall.
India is not in a position to give a shut-up call to America.
Well, you'd be surprised, sir. They've been doing it. They've been doing it.
They try, but
they try, it doesn't work. But I think, keep it in mind, I mean, anything is possible. And if he's a sensible leader, I think he should take a leaf from there and try to do something to leave a name in the history.
And also win the Nobel Prize in the process.
I think he should get 2.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time and sharing your views with PTV World. Well, you heard the conversation, and in the end, as always, we like to say that please draw your own conclusions from what you've heard. And we hope that President Donald Trump and indeed others that are involved in the Afghan quagmire can see the light and can bring this senseless conflict to an end. With that hope and on that note, it's goodbye.